Hey guys, welcome back. This is a pretty exciting video I wanted to make. It's unlike any of the videos I've done before, but I just received my copy of Monsters of the Multiverse, the new source book for the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons, and I think it's a really cool resource. I got it with the expansion edition for the core rulebook set, the box set, which is how I got my core rulebooks. So it did come with Xanathar's Guide to Everything and Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, along with a new dungeon screen, which has some really beautiful art on it. I'll show you here. And obviously the really cool foil covers. But my understanding of Mordecai Presents Monsters of the Multiverse is that it's a combination actually of Volo's Guide to Monsters and Mordecai's Tome of Foes, which has been amalgamated into this one book for playable races, monster stats, and NPCs with some updated stat blocks and some retconned lore. And from what I'm understanding, the reason that they've done this is that this might be really the first move towards the implementation of 5.5, the new edition that's supposed to come out in 2024. But I think this is a great resource. One of the things that I really like to do when I'm world building or encounter building or quest building is to go through the monster manual and find a monster that I've never used before, and read up on the lore and read up on its abilities and its attacks and kind of how it functions as a monster in the game, and then build either a quest or even a one-shot around that. An example of what I did is I was listening to the Dungeon Cast and they did their episode on bullywugs, and then I thought that was really cool, so I went through the monster manual and read up all on bullywugs, and then I decided to create a one-shot for my players completely centered around, in a swamp environment, surrounded by bullywugs, and we played that for 5 or 6 hours, and it was a really fun time, but it was a cool way to get out of my comfort zone and a cool way to try and build something that I wasn't used to building, and to go outside kind of the confines of how I normally perceive, fantasy settings. This book has 30 plus playable races, anything from Aarakocras, ASMR, Kenkus, Hobgoblins, Turtles, Tabaxis, Goliaths, Genasi, Yanti, Deep Gnomes, Changelings, Lizard Folk, Minotaur, Orcs, Satyrs. The list is quite extensive, and it's very exciting, even as a forever DM, to see these, because it gives my players a vast set of options to choose from when creating their characters, and to really get that super customizable personality and characteristic sheet for the characters they're creating, which as a dungeon master excites me, because Dungeons & Dragons is a collaborative storytelling game where having the players be able to bring that kind of customization and that wide variety of playable races and classes that they can choose from really lets the world and the story that we're creating together when we play so much more personal and so much more customizable. And I think that's just very exciting. And it also helps because as a dungeon master, I also do, fill out my own character sheets from time to time and build characters to be NPCs, like very important NPCs. And this gives me such a much more, like I said, more customizable way of doing that. And I can incorporate so much more of a variety of storytelling elements with these playable races. It's super exciting. And I think if you don't already own the other 2 books, I would definitely jump on this. And even if you do, maybe it's worth getting with the updated lore or not, but I don't think that would be a necessity, seeing how, the new edition that's going to come out, if this is part of that, is going to be backwards compatible anyways. I think where the lore stands, it's not really that important, because I know when I'm DMing, I'm typically taking elements of the existing lore, but changing it to fit into the narrative of my story anyways. So that's something to think about, but I mean, the options here are just endless. The second element of this that's really cool is the monster stat blocks and NPC stat blocks, and there are well over 250. I mean, we've got everything from elemental Myrmidons to elder brains and clockwork stone defenders, cranium rats, death kiss, an updated list of dinosaurs, brontosaurus, stegosaurus, velociraptor. There are dolphins and flins, flail snail, hellfire engines, kobold dragon shields, kobold inventors, kobold scale sorcerers, star spawns, steeders, trolls, turtles, skull lords, I mean, the list is just super extensive, and mixed in there are NPCs, and the one that I was really drawn to is the list of wizards that you can use as either NPCs or enemies, because I find it kind of a little bit more challenging running NPCs or monsters that are humanoid spellcasters, because you have to really, you know, go through the spell list and customize. And I mean, that's still something that you have to do in here, but the stat blocks they give you for like the wizard enemies and NPCs are just really, really cool. You get your apprentice wizards, your abjurer wizards, your conjurer wizard, your diviner wizard, your enchanter wizard, your evoker wizard, your illusionist wizard, your necromancer wizard, and your transmuter wizard. And along with that is a very specific stat block and spell list and action list that focuses on that type of spellcaster. And I just find that when I'm running campaigns or sessions that, you know, go off on kind of like a tangent or something that I haven't planned for, and it makes sense, you know, in the narrative for there to be, you know, oh wait, you know, there's a necromancer in here. You can just flip down over to the page in the book for a necromancer, and there's way less customization you have to do, so it's much easier to run on the fly. He's already got his arcane burst, his multi-attack, his spell casting, dancing lights, mage hand, prestidigitation, bestow curse, dimension door, mage armor, web, circle of death. And I mean, you can add other spells in there once you get more comfortable with it, obviously, but you know, bonus actions, summon Undead, where you can magically summon 5 skeletons or zombies, and you can go back to the monster manual to get those stat blocks. And as a reaction, Grim Harvest, so when he kills a creature with necrotic damage, he regains 2d8 hit points. And that's just, you know, really quick. You're like, there's gotta be a necromancer in here. You flip to the page, and it just makes running those sessions that kind of go off the prepared script like way easier. Apart from that, there's also a lot of higher level monsters, more like boss monsters. And an example that I found in here that I'm kind of excited to use are the extended kind of giants. So there's the storm giant Quintessence, you know, comes with a stat block, you know, actions, resistances, immunities, senses, languages, all the normal stuff, actions, legendary actions, and also layer actions for the layer. This is one of the things in the book that I really love. I mean, any book, not just this book specifically, it's just that expanded knowledge base of lore that you can really go into, where you're reading about the Quintessence Layer, and with the layer actions and, you know, all the regional effects that come with that, you can really get a much more deep understanding of how this monster or how this NPC lives in the world you've created, and you can create so much of the world around that. And it really helps give you, well, for me personally, it gives me ideas for world building and for quest building, because I can say, oh, this layer, the Quintessence Layer, is not in like a castle or dungeon. They like specific geological features, you know, possibly behind a waterfall or on a mountain peak, in a coral reef, and just that first sentence or two in the description of the layer, you know, lets me say, okay, cool. My party has just gotten on a ship and I want to make a ship encounter, but I don't want to do, you know, the typical Kraken or merfolk and stuff. You can be like, oh, you know what? Maybe a storm comes and they get shipwrecked and there's a coral reef that they get shipwrecked on. And that's the layer for the storm giant Quintessence. And all of a sudden, the encounter is already half built just from the description in here, and you can fill in the blanks later on and go through and add some more underwater monsters, some hirelings, or some drudgelings, or whatever you want to call them. And yeah, so I really like this book for those reasons. The same reason, obviously, you like the monster manual, but just to have that expanded set of lore and blocks to really build a customizable gaming quest experience. So overall, I haven't obviously gone through this entire book in its full yet, but I am excited to delve a lot deeper into it. But, you know, from what I've gone through so far and what I've, you know, started incorporating into my games, I think this is a definite good book to have. If you've already got it or you're planning on getting it, leave me a comment on what you think and what your favorite, you know, stat block in here is, or your favorite playable race. And if you found this video helpful in making your decision of whether you or not you want to purchase this, you know, leave a comment on that as well. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and notification bell, because we got lots more fun stuff coming up that you can do inside and out. And if you're into D&D, check out the playlist on models and minis. Take care. I'll see you guys at the next video.